Hey, I'm Brad from Fix This Build That, and today I'm going to show you how to make this Downdraft sanding table. It hooks up to a dust collection system or a shop vac, pulls suction so that you can sand on top of it. All the dust goes down into the collection system instead of up into the air and into your lungs.
I started the build by cutting the pegboard top to size at 18 by 24 inches, which is a bit bigger than the one I've previously built. I found I needed just a little more room for sanding the size cutting boards that I make. I ripped 6-inch strips out of 1/2 inch MDF for the sides, and I cut the long sides to 24 inches and the short ones to 19 inches. The whole build was made from leftover wood from other projects, and it's a great project for all those offcuts. The dust is collected through a 4-inch dust port on one of the short sides. I laid out the fittings centered on the side and flush with the bottom. Then I drilled a pilot hole and cut out the opening with a jigsaw. You can install a smaller port here if you're using a shop vac. Just put the edge of the hole about 1 inch up from the bottom.
Got the hole cut. To put it together, I'm just going to use brad nails and some quick setting glue here. The other one I made was just put together with glue and it's held together fine. So I actually have this upside down, so you want this to be flush with the bottom, the dust port. And that way I can use the actual pegboard to square everything up.
The pegboard top is supported by cleats installed around the sides. I ripped down some scrap 3/4 inch plywood into 1.5 inch wide strips, and then I cut them to size at the miter saw to fit around the inside. I switched over to yellow wood glue to install the cleats, so I had a little more time to adjust them. I lined the cleat using a small piece of pegboard to make sure the top surface would be flush with the sides, and I tacked it into place with some 1-inch brad nails. After attaching the first strip, I realized the plywood was a little too bowed and was actually pulling the 1/2 inch MDF sides inward. So I switched out the rest of the plywood cleats for some 1-inch wide poplar pieces and attached them with glue and brad nails as well. Then I ripped a piece of 1/4 inch plywood to 18 inches to prepare for the next step.
Now I need to put in the dust chute. And so the dust chute is going to be 1.25 inch plywood. So this is resting on the back cleat. That's going to give it still enough space for air movement. So I'll get a measurement on here. It looks like right about 24 inches. I'm going to cut it, then we'll fiddle with it if it needs to have any more adjustment. Right, that 24 inches was just about perfect. I did one more little cut on it. What you want it to do is to be tight up against the cleat in the back here, and then just below the line here. I'll flip this over, and this is how it looks on the inside. So again, you're just under the cutout hole here, very close to it, and then up against the top cleat here on the underside. This is going to be caulked, and I'm also going to put some cleats on the underside of this for support.
I made cleats for the dust chute out of 3/4 by 3/4 poplar. I put glue on 2 edges and nailed them to the sides with 1-inch brad nails. The cleats are 14 inches long and are more than enough support for the chute. Next, I flipped the box over and drilled pilot holes for the dust port and attached them with 5/8 inch panhead screws. Then I caulked all the inner seams to make the box airtight except for the top.
All right, this thing looks great. I just put the top on there. It fits awesome. You can always pop the top out just by reaching through and pushing up. I got a really tight fit, which is great. If you don't have a tight fit, you can also put some screws down through there into the cleats to hold it tight. But this one works out perfect. Now what I want to do is make some sides for it. The sides will help knock down the dust so that as it's coming through, the dust is going to hit the side barriers and just go right into that downdraft. It just helps it be a little bit more efficient. They're going to be 12 inches tall out of 1/4 inch plywood.
After ripping the plywood down to 12 inches, I cut a full-size back piece at 25 inches and then 2 sides at 17 inches. I made a cutout for the dust port on one of the sides using a 6-inch sanding disc for the curve. After I laid it out, I cut it out with a jigsaw. To hold the panel together, I made some hinges out of duct tape. I got this idea from Bob over at I Like to Make Stuff and the fabric hinge on his knockdown spray booth. I'll have a link below to that video. I spaced the panels a pencil width apart and taped one of the sides. On the other side, I folded the tape and pressed it into the seam. Then I folded the joint and secured the tape on all sides. I repeated the same process for the other corner, cut off the excess tape, and then I have my 2 functioning hinges.
So this is how it will work. Open up the hinges. Put it in place, and I'll just throw a clamp on the back of that for right now. I may do some other attachment methods, maybe some magnets or something in the future, but for right now, this will do. I think this turned out really cool. I know y'all want to see it in action, so I'm going to hook up the dust collector and see if I can give you some examples of how the suction is.
Yeah, this was my initial idea for showing you the suction. Throwing a 6-inch sanding disc across the top and watching it stop. Brilliant! Here's a better representation, me actually sanding. In the tight shot, you can see the dust around the edge of the board. Almost all of it's getting pulled down into the downdraft in that first couple inches off the board.
If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'd love to have you as part of the channel. You can also support me over on Patreon. There's a link down below in the description. I've got some other videos over here you can check out if you want to see more of what I'm doing. And until next time, guys, get out there and build something awesome.